How do parachutes work? Hey, engineering enthusiasts. Recently, there was an incident involving a Brazilian Air Force FAB fighter jet that crashed in Parnamirim. Fortunately, the pilot escaped without serious injuries. The aircraft experienced technical issues, and the pilot managed to maneuver it toward an uninhabited area before ejecting safely. With that in mind, when it comes to saving lives, parachutes are among the simplest yet most effective inventions. But how does a parachute actually work in theory? If you throw a ball into the air, sooner or later, it will always fall back to the ground. This happens because Earth pulls everything toward it with a force called gravity. You probably learned in school that Earth's gravitational force is roughly the same everywhere. It varies slightly but not significantly. If you were to drop a heavy rock and a light feather from the top of a skyscraper, gravity would pull both objects toward the ground with the same force. In a vacuum, where there is no air resistance, the feather and the rock would hit the ground at the same time. However, in reality, the rock falls much faster, not because it is heavier, but because the feather, with its larger surface area, experiences more air resistance, also known as drag, which slows it down. But what causes air resistance? Just because air is invisible doesn't mean it isn't there. Earth's atmosphere is filled with gas molecules, so when you move through the air, whether walking, driving a car, flying a plane, or floating with a parachute, you have to push these molecules out of the way. We only truly notice air resistance when moving at high speeds. It's similar to how water pushes against your body when you're swimming in a pool, except, in the case of air, it's invisible. If you jump off a trampoline or do a belly flop, the awkward shape of your body creates a lot of resistance, quickly slowing you down when you hit the water. But if you dive head first with your arms extended, your body cuts through the water smoothly, allowing you to keep moving quickly as you enter. When you belly flop, your body slows down rapidly because the water cannot move out of the way fast enough. With a parachute, this slowing effect is exactly what we want. If you fall from a plane without a parachute, your relatively compact body moves through the air like a rock. But when you open a parachute, you dramatically increase air resistance, allowing you to float safely to the ground, much more like a feather. Simply put, a parachute works by increasing your air resistance as you fall. Terminal velocity, another key concept in parachute physics. When a force pulls on an object, it causes the object to move faster, increasing its speed. In other words, it makes the object accelerate. Like any other force, gravity causes falling objects to accelerate, but only up to a certain point. If you jump from a plane, your body should accelerate by approximately 10 meters per second for every second you are falling, or 10 meters per second squared. This acceleration due to gravity is commonly approximated as 10 meters per second squared. If you were high enough in a plane and jumped, in theory, after about 100 seconds, you would be falling at around 1,000 meters per second, or 3,600 kilometers per hour, which is nearly as fast as the world's fastest jet planes. In reality, this doesn't happen. After about 12 seconds, you reach a text cutoff. The speed at which the force of air resistance pushing you upward increases so much that it balances the force of gravity pulling you downward. At this point, there is no net acceleration, and you continue falling at a constant speed known as terminal velocity. For a human in free fall, with arms extended in the classic skydiving position, the terminal velocity is about 55 meters per second, or 200 kilometers per hour, which is still fast enough to be fatal, especially if you're falling from an airplane. Feathers fall more slowly than rocks because their terminal velocity is lower. So another way to understand how a parachute works is to realize that it drastically reduces your terminal velocity by increasing your air resistance as you fall. It does this by opening behind you and creating a large surface area of material that generates a huge amount of drag. Parachutes are designed to reduce terminal velocity by about 90%, so that you hit the ground at a relatively low speed of around 5 to 6 meters per second, approximately 20 kilometers per hour. Ideally, this allows you to land on your feet, run a few steps, and walk away unharmed. Do all parachutes work the same way? Parachutes come in many shapes. Do they all function the same? Traditionally, parachutes were round, dome-shaped, and, with their suspension lines hanging below, looked a bit like jellyfish as they descended. They had ventilation holes to allow air to escape, helping prevent excessive swinging during descent, and their lines provided very basic steering control. Most modern parachutes, however, are rectangular, a design known as ram air parachutes. These have multiple cells that inflate as air hits them, forming a curved and relatively rigid airfoil wing that is much more maneuverable and text cut off. A ram air parachute is far more maneuverable and controllable than a traditional round parachute. However, round parachutes are still widely used by military paratroopers because they are effective for deploying many people together in a relatively small area and at low altitudes. This is because military operations prioritize getting to the ground quickly rather than showcasing skydiving techniques. Recreational parachuting, on the other hand, considers round parachutes obsolete, as almost all skydivers now use the ram air design. Can a parachute slow down an entire spacecraft? Using a parachute to safely bring a person from a plane to the ground is one thing, but what if you needed to slow down an entire spacecraft in the same way? This was the challenge faced by NASA every time the Space Shuttle, the now retired reusable spaceplane, returned to Earth. During launch, the Space Shuttle used powerful main engines and rocket boosters to propel it into space. But upon re-entry, it became nothing more than a glider, relying on its short wings to guide it home. Once it re-entered Earth's atmosphere, the shuttle approached its 4.5-kilometer-long runway at around 350 kilometers per hour, much faster than a typical jetliner, which lands at about 240 kilometers per hour. After touchdown, the crew applied brakes to bring the spacecraft to a stop safely, but they also deployed a drag parachute, which helped slow it down. This 12-meter-wide parachute reduced the shuttle's speed by about 75% before being jettisoned. Parachutes for cargo and space missions. Parachutes are also used to deliver heavy equipment and supplies directly to battlefields. Cargo parachutes can be massive, designed to support the weight of vehicles, ammunition, food, and other essential materials. Space missions, including Mars exploration, use large parachutes to slow down probes and rovers during atmospheric entry, ensuring a safe landing. NASA famously used parachutes during the Mars rover mission, such as for the landing of the Perseverance rover in 2021. Drag parachutes are even used in race cars and fighter jets to reduce speed after crossing the finish line or landing when conventional braking isn't enough. A notable example is the use of parachutes in drag racing cars. What are parachutes made of? Modern parachutes are made of synthetic materials like nylon and Kevlar, which offer high durability, flexibility, and resistance to wear while remaining lightweight. Nylon is widely used because it is water-resistant, heat-resistant, and can withstand high-impact forces. Kevlar, known for its incredible tensile strength, is used in specialized applications, such as high-performance parachutes or heavy cargo parachutes. These materials replace traditional silk fabrics, making parachutes safer and more efficient for recreational, military, and space applications. Final thoughts. If you've made it this far and enjoyed the video, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a like, and turn on notifications. If you find our content valuable, consider becoming a member to support our work and get a shout out in future videos. Looking to grow personally and professionally? Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to access various learning opportunities that can boost your career. Have you ever gone skydiving? Did you know how parachutes worked? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Check out the 2 video recommendations on the side to expand your knowledge and explore your curiosity.